Welcome, everyone, to the CERS Finance Committee meeting on November 25th, 2024. I'll call the meeting to order, and next we'll ask Mr. Bronco for the legal public statement, please.
All right. This is a regular meeting of the County Employees Retirement System Board of Trustees Finance Committee. This meeting is being broadcast via video teleconference pursuant to KRS 61826 and may be viewed by the public at the Kentucky Public Pensions Authority offices located at 1260 Louisville Road in Frankfort, Kentucky. It is also being broadcast to the public live via Facebook. If you are speaking and are not appearing by video, please identify yourself before talking. If the video or audio broadcast is interrupted, we will attempt to reestablish a connection. If the connection cannot be reestablished within 30 minutes, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled to a later date.
Thank you. There was no public comment for today's meeting, so the next agenda item is approval of the August 19th, 2024 minutes.
Mr. O'Meara, do you want me to do the roll call?
I'm sorry, please do.
Yes. Okay. Mr. O'Meara?
Here.
Mr. Cheatham?
Here.
Mr. Fulkerson?
Here.
Ms. Pendergrass?
Here.
And Mr. Powell? Thank you.
All right, now public comment. There is none, is that correct?
That is correct. We did not have any public comment today.
And we will get to minutes, August 19th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thanks. Having first and second, are there any discussion, comments, or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone else?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. Next, I'll ask Mr. Lamb to go through our quarterly financial reports, please.
Thank you, Mr. O'Meara. We're going to begin on page 5. As discussed in the past meeting, we've changed the presentation of these financial statements. This is kind of what they're going to look like in your ACFR. But we're going to start near the bottom of this page. You'll see that the total fiduciary net position for the C system is $19.2 billion. That's up 16.88% or $2.88 billion year over year. The two pension plans, if you add that $10 million and that $3.5 million up, that increased 17.74% or $2.1 billion year to year, and the two insurance plans total $5.5 billion, and that increase is 14.8% or $712 million over the prior year. As we scroll back up, there's various notes documenting changes of plus or minus 10% and over $1 million. You can read them at the bottom. For example, note 1 shows the result of the cash management branch evaluating the balances and reducing them. So there's a big swing in reduction of that cash balance year over year. And then I want to talk a little bit about the investments in fair value right there in the middle of the page. They increased 16.85% year over year, or that's $2.7 billion. The pension plans by themselves are up 17.78%, and the insurance plans are up 14.62%. The largest increase is with public equities, which is up 16.69% or $1.3 billion across all the plans, followed by core fixed income, which is up $787 million or 47.67% year over year across all the plans. We're going to go down to the next page, which is near the bottom, all the way of page 8 is where I want to start with this one. So this is the statement of changes. On the bottom right, under 2025, you can see $744 million. That represents the change in the net position. In this case, it's an increase, and that's representing from July 1 to September 30th, this first quarter. The prior year's first quarter was a decrease of $298 million. The two pension plans show 383 million and 154 million net increase, and that is 360% or $743 million higher than the prior year amount of negative 206 million for the two pension plans. The two insurance plans of 146 and 61, they show a total, that's a total of 207, and that's 300 million or 324% higher than the prior year amount of minus 93 million. If we scroll a little bit back up to page 7, we can see that this increase in net position is driven by the fair market value, or the fair value of investments. That's at $783 million. And where do I want to point that out here? Fair, it's like the second line right below investment income. Yep, right there, 783, 350. And that's largely from the public equities and core fixed income. That's also outlined in note 3 there. And that's what's driving that increase for this, for the C system. I want to now discuss the contribution reports that drive a lot of this money coming in, and that begins on page 9. So in quarter 1 of this year, the pension plans received 272 million in total contributions. So that's the 36.1 to 36.1 for non-hazardous, 15.5 for hazardous, and then the employer contributions of 148.3 for hazardous and 72.6 for non-hazardous. Versus 289.6 million or $17.1 million less in total than what was received in Q1 of the prior year. Member contributions are up 2.6 million, while employer contributions are down 19.8 million. The total payroll for the C plans for Q1 is up 660 or 66.7 million or 7.35%. That's what's driving the increase in member contributions. There's 3,765 more active members compared to last quarter. However, the employer rates for the CERS non-hazardous plan dropped from 23.34 to 19.71. And for the CERS hazardous plan, they dropped from 41.11 to 36.49. That's resulting in the lower employee contributions of $19.8 million when compared year to year. The net investment income, which is interest plus dividends, less investment expenses, performance fees, and carried interest for the two pension plans, are $76.8 million. So that's that 56.4 right there in 25 and this 20.4 here. That is $14.1 million or 22.3% higher than the prior year quarter 1. And both plans paid out $373.5 million in benefits, refunds, and admin expenses versus $329.4 million in the prior quarter. That's $44 million higher or 13.39%. So all of that discussion shows that this net contribution highlighted in yellow is that the non-hazardous pension plan had a negative net contribution of $31 million, while the CERS hazardous pension plan had positive net contributions of 6.8. When we remove the net investment income of the 56.4 and the 20.4 from both of those plans, the CERS non-hazardous plan has a negative 87.4 million in cash flow, while the CERS hazardous plan has a negative 13.6 for the first quarter. The light yellow net contribution line for the insurance plans shows that CERS non-hazardous is negative 4.6 million, and the CERS hazardous plan has a negative 10.5 million. If we remove the net investment income of 20.5 million and 9.4 million, the bottom chart, or the cash flow, has negative contributions at, or negative cash flow at 25.1 million and negative 19.9 million respectively for those two plans. The non-hazardous insurance plan has 0.9 million less in employer contributions for Q1 versus prior year. It also has 10.4 million of Humana gain share last year, and this year it has 0. And the hazardous insurance plan has $0.8 million less in employer contributions, and has $1.6 million less of Humana game share for Q1. The healthcare premiums outflows for the non-hazardous plan are up 6.2 million and 2.3 million in the hazardous plan compared to Q1. So that contribution statement shows a little bit of what happens when contribution rates go down. In the employer plan, we're offsetting that somewhat with the increase in employer salaries or employee salaries. But I think that was, it shed a little bit of information to me when I looked at the analysis of the total contributions coming in. Any questions on those statements before I move to invoices?
Ms. Pendergrass has her hand raised.
Thank you. This is more of a question for Rebecca. We used to have a periodic report on the change in membership. Would it be possible to restart that reporting and maybe for CERS, could we track changes in our membership in the tiers, what's happening on retirements, active employees and so forth to kind of give us an additional table that would help explain some of the changes in employee and employer contributions, if we could monitor that maybe.
Yes, that's a reasonable request. We can accommodate that.
Wouldn't have to be exactly like we were doing it before. There might be some adjustments we could make. So your creative boss, Mr. Barrow, might be able to have some suggestions.
That's great.
Yes, I'm tracking some of that in my analysis, and I think maybe last quarter I did put a headcount change chart in there, but it can be more elaborate than what was in there last quarter. But yes, that's where I got the change in headcount in this analysis, was by what we're tracking. But yeah, easily can put a chart in. Okay, if we want to go down to the next page, we're going to talk about the outstanding invoices report by employer. The 930 amount of it's about 3.3 million. It's 4% less than the 630 amount of 3.4 million also. Or 3.3 versus 3.4. There's a list of the top 10 employers with outstanding. Most of that list is the same. I do want to point out that the Jefferson County Board of Education is new for 683. That was a back invoicing of retired reemployed persons that had to be caught up, and then that was one large invoice that was issued, I believe, in August with the due date of September. It has yet to be collected, but ERC is working with that group to do that. The rest of them remain the same as they have been in the past. Most of them have been referred to legal for further action. If you go down to the next page, you'll look at the penalty invoice report. So we created 15 penalty invoices. Oh, I'm sorry. First we waived 15 penalty invoices during the quarter for $20,000. The reasons are noted there in the comments. We had 21 penalty invoices created during the quarter for $20,000, and 31 penalty invoices were paid during the quarter for $32,000. The next part is the admin budget. So again, this is the summary table here, showing the categories at a high level. I will say that personnel being the largest number, we've spent $8.9 million in the first quarter. It's 24% of the entire budget for that line item, and it's 4.4% higher than last year's Q1. There's a few line items within personnel. The one that I wanted to point out is the workers' comp item is over budget when you look at it quarter to quarter, but we got billed one time at the start of the year, our annual premium. So at the end of the year, we should be under budget for that. Also in the comments, the legal contracts is 15% of the annual budget right now, but we have asked for an increase in the contract with Ice Miller to cover some ongoing litigation. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Sheriff, if you scroll this a little bit, those comments can be shown on the screen for those big categories. And so overall, at admin for first quarter, it's 10.8 million. It's 6.29% higher than the prior year, and we still have 77.93% of the total budget remaining. So when you're looking at it at quarter to quarter, we're a little bit below budget for the quarter. The detail admin budget is below that, which each individual line item, like I said, there wasn't much that stood out there except for that workers' compensation line item. If anyone had any questions on any of those individual line items in these categories or in the operations category on the second page, would be happy to field any questions there. Otherwise, the next chart is the hybrid allocation, allocating that 10.8 million to the pension plans. So that's how it's been allocated based on the approved hybrid percentage for this fiscal year. And then the next two charts are the JP Morgan fees and interest charts, showing that the fees that were being charged by month in total for all of our JP Morgan accounts, and then the hard dollar interest that's been earned each month on those accounts. I believe that's all I have.
Excellent change in the difference between what we were doing in terms of account management and what we are now earning on interest. So that is really working out very nice. Thanks for all the work on that one.
You're welcome. I do plan later to do a different analysis on the banking. I just haven't been able to finalize what I've been working on, but I think you'll find it very interesting with all of that change and how it's impacted us over the last couple of years.
Do we have any other questions regarding the financial update?
Mike, just one question, more curiosity than anything. The previous page where you've got, trying to think, go to the top of that page. I was just curious as to why. Well, that's not it either. The reporting on the FICA contributions. I was just curious how our FICA contributions went down while our payroll went up.
That is a good question. Let me just recalculate them and see if there's some reason that's weird.
It may be a timing issue or something.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good observation. I'll need to look at that a little closer.
Any
Thanks.
other questions? All right. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate the report. Now we go to hazardous duty request. Mr. Sherratt, can you walk us through that?
Yes, I can. Good afternoon. Today we have 9 positions being requested for hazardous duty coverage. We have police, fire, paramedic, and an EMS director position. KPPA staff has reviewed the position questionnaires and job descriptions as well, and believe these positions do meet statutory guidelines for hazardous duty. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If not, I would like to request the CERS Finance Committee to approve these positions to be presented in front of the CERS Board of Trustees for final approval.
Move for approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, discussion. Anyone have any questions? All right, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, Juan, you have approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to shift back to Mr. Lamb. He is going to report on Employee Invoice Task Force, please.
Yeah, so in the September 24 KPPA meeting, we got approval to form a task force to continue to evaluate open and outstanding invoices. We had a kickoff meeting on October 31, where we tried to just kind of establish some objectives for the task force. And so some of the things that we're going to include, although not comprehensive, is to develop reporting. It should include open amounts, past due amounts, etc. The efforts and results of where this monitoring has gone, where we've been able to collect some past due amounts, what legal's been working on, the efforts that the ERSI team's been doing, and how that's resulted in enhanced collections. We do want to assist the legal group in formalizing a comprehensive KPPA regulation regarding employer invoices, charging interest, when to charge interest, etc. We are going to review existing policies and procedures, make recommendations for improvement to those, including standardizing the processes between different types of invoices that go to employers, and whether interest gets charged at what rate, etc., etc. We're looking at areas in which automation can assist. Currently, IT does have an invoicing project that they're working on that's supposed to go live in their February 2025 build. So that will enhance some of that process, but we're also looking for other ways to do more enhanced automation. We have a project manager of the task force from the IT group, who is establishing a Teams channel and setting up meetings, as well as being a active participant on the task force. And our next meeting will be in December. So it was really just an initial kickoff. I know this has been a topic of interest for this particular committee for several months, if not 18 months. And so this is the next phase in the invoice process.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Land regarding this? It is something that we've had discussion about in the past, so appreciate your efforts here and look forward to some of the product that comes out of it. Any other comments? All right. Well, we'll shift from administrative to investments. And can we have Mr. Willer walk us through that information, please?
Sure. Good afternoon, Sherry. Page 4 of one page, please. Thank you. Just wanted to provide a brief update on the investment budget through the first quarter of the new fiscal year. Through the first quarter of fiscal 2025, actual expenses were below budget with a total of $2.04 million, or 16% of the amount budgeted for the year spent year to date. Consulting and contractual services, where we usually have greater visibility, were in line with the amounts budgeted for the year. And similar to prior quarters, the total for overall legal expenses is really the outlier, remained well below the amount budgeted, with only 7% of the amount budgeted for the year spent year to date. For fiscal 2025, the total budgeted for legal expenses was increased by $1.9 million, or 38% from the prior fiscal year. And that really was in anticipation of activity increasing across a number of cases as they move forward, which would result in commensurate increases in expenses. The two things I would highlight, the Solovis line item in the contractual services and the new private markets consultant line item. As we previously discussed, the Solovis is billed on an annual basis, and the amount shown is the full amount for the fiscal year. So we won't receive another invoice, so we're paid for the full year already. And a line item for the new private markets consultant was approved for the fiscal 2025 budget. And we expect that a search for this consultant will be undertaken in parallel with the general consultant RFP in the second half of 2025. So that's something, as we broaden out our asset allocations, we will consider adding an additional private markets consultant. Page 24, please, Sherry. Thank you. For the first quarter, investment fees and expenses across the pension and insurance trust were $4.2 million, or 7.4% more than the same period last year, while total assets during the same period increased by 19%. As the table highlights, there is significant volatility in the composition of the total fees and expenses over time, with the largest drivers being the performance fees and the miscellaneous fees and expense categories. And within that miscellaneous fees category, that really is credit lines as the primary driver of significant changes. And as we know, over the last 2 years, rates have gone up substantially from that zero bound. And those credit facilities are part of the investment strategy for those managers. Focusing just on the investment advisory fees, which are the base fees the systems pay to external investment managers, I would really highlight the consistency across time with only a 5% increase in fees since 2021, and that's despite a 50% increase in total assets. So the fee efficiency has improved over the last 3.5 years. Betty, you have a question?
Yes, I was wondering if we could add some percentages and yields on this table, maybe in addition to the table that you've got here, have a table that shows the percentage of fees to market value and then yields on each of those asset categories to help us analyze these changes a little bit better.
Sure. We've talked about that in the investment committee, and I'll actually I can touch on that in a minute. But specifically for, I think what you probably want is an annualized basis point charge by asset class, which is something we can add, and we'll talk about in the investment committee as well. But a little bit of a difficulty with that is these are obviously point in time measures, and doing a simple calculation based on a market value as of a date and the fees paid over a quarter and annualizing that will give you a good estimation, but not necessarily an accurate picture. Really, you need a weighted average of asset class over time in those fees. For instance, we've had a significant increase in the allocation in core fixed income, so that asset base at the end of the quarter is much higher potentially than what the fee base was over that period of time. But that's something we can talk about and add and provide some context as to what those fees are, especially the base rate fees, which are AUM based. Those are pretty straightforward to calculate. We can provide something that's more of a weighted average, similar to what we do in the annual reporting.
Yes, and I think the quarter, a single quarter's result is not necessarily relevant or as relevant as, say, a longer term like a year or 3 years. So we could use some of the cumulative yields that we're putting in the monthly performance report. So there might be some ways we could tag into that. So looking forward to your suggestions.
Sure. I think it's worthwhile. Obviously, that's something we provide in the annual report, but providing an update on that, I don't know if quarterly, as you mentioned, whether that's provides a lot of good information, but that's something we can look at including. I would also highlight the reduction in core fixed income advisory fees. We see that they're flat compared to the same period in 2024, and that's despite a 48% increase in the market value of the portfolio. And core fixed income fees are also 520 or 43% lower than in 2023, while the total invested in core fixed income has increased by 50%. These reductions were driven by the rebalancing of the portfolio, including bringing a sleeve of those assets in-house, which ultimately we expect to reduce annual fees by $1.5 to $2 million per year. We'll pause there for any questions. And Betty, to your point, when I look at, if we annualize kind of those quarterly numbers, just again, it's an estimate because it's based on a point in time AUM versus fees that were paid over the entire course of the quarter. Roughly, investment management fees for core fixed income are running about 6 basis points a year. Public equity is about 21, and this is at the trust level. Individual CERS portfolios will have a modestly different experience based on their specific asset allocations, as well as the underlying mandates that they're invested in. Specialty credit runs about 57, real estate's running 70, real return 52, and private equity 37. Now, private equity at 37 is a bit of a misnomer. That obviously we have a significant legacy issue with that, so that's not certainly not reflective of current fees for the asset class, but that's where our portfolio is currently fees out.
Yeah, We have a column in the monthly report that gives us yields over a 1-year cumulative period, so maybe that might be a frame that we could look at timing. Instead of looking at just a quarter, is what have we done over the last 12 months?
Well, we can certainly compare fees versus performance for an asset class. You know, yields for asset classes are obviously going to be a little different, but we can certainly provide something, align fees with performance for asset classes over time. That's all I had on the investment budget. Any other additional questions?
All right, go ahead. I think you've got more slides. Was there anything else that you wanted to highlight?
No, that's all I was going to highlight, was just that's trust level for the insurance and pension. So those are the overall fees. The following slides are just a breakdown for CERS portfolio specifically.
All right. Well, that ends our agenda. It's a regular meeting. Is there any other business that anyone wants the committee to look at today? All right, hearing none. Thank you everyone for the information, those people presenting, as well as all the ones that worked to get it ready. We appreciate all your efforts, appreciate everyone's time, and thank you very much. We'll close the meeting. Is adjourned. Goodbye.